Go. All right, I think we're going to get started here. Great. Well, thank you all for coming down to Juneau here, or folks who live around here. Appreciate your time and interest today. Good morning. My name is Brian Hirsch. I'm with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and this is the Emerging Energy Technologies Forum. And I just wanted to give a few opening comments and remarks about how this whole thing came to be. The Emerging Energy Technologies program in general was really an outgrowth of the Renewable Energy Fund, which has now been created through the state legislature and has three or so years of a track record at about $50 million a year, roughly. And the focus of that program had been to really just lower the cost of power with renewable energy wherever possible throughout Alaska. And we realized, many people who have been involved in that program, that there was still a missing niche in Alaska because of our unique situations and challenges around energy issues. And so there's some technologies that aren't quite off the shelf, that aren't just readily available, and that still needed some government support and funding. And so there were several people who really recognized this and advocated for the creation of what we called an Emerging Energy Technologies program, or sort of a pre-commercial effort that wasn't for technology that was so readily available. And so we recognize in Alaska, again, these really unique challenges in remote areas, very high cost prices, and some of the vulnerabilities that we have. There are times often where you can't get diesel fuel readily shipped or easily shipped into communities. So this is really an attempt to kind of address some of those situations. And so today we have grant recipients from the first round of Denali Commission funded emerging energy grants. And so in total there were 11 grant recipients, and 6 of them will be presenting here today. And this idea of having the grant recipients present status progress both to each other and to the broader general public was in some ways an outgrowth of Department of Energy Tribal Energy program, where they do every year, they call it an annual program review. And all of the tribal grant recipients come down to Colorado, and there are several people here who have, I think, participated in some of those. I've seen them down in Colorado, and so it's been a very good learning experience for everybody, because everybody's always so focused on their own individual projects. But of course, we know there's a lot to learn when we kind of pick our heads up and see what else is going on around us, and that can often apply to our own projects, but we just don't often have the opportunity to see how that all plays out. So the Department of Energy the Tribal Energy Program is something that I'm affiliated with through the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, which is NREL, as it's called, is based down in Colorado. But because, in part, of the recognition of the unique challenges and opportunities in Alaska around energy, Department of Energy established a small office in Alaska, based in Anchorage, which I'm directing that office for NREL and for the Department of Energy. So that's how this all came to be. And part of my responsibilities are both sitting on the Energy Advisory Committee to the Denali Commission and to what's now become the Advisory Committee to this Emerging Energy Technology Fund. And so really the way it worked is what we are now calling Round Zero was the first year where the Denali Commission put money up front and said this is something that we believe is an important initiative, and we hope that over time there will be sort of ongoing support and a partnership developed with other federal and state partners to really take this, enshrine it essentially in state legislation. So the first year there was about $4.5 million or so that the Denali Commission put up, and there were several of us, both state and federal people, who were the overseers and decision makers essentially, or advisors to the grant decisions. And the recipients are who we'll see here in a moment, presenting for the rest of the day. And what happened after that was a follow-up with SB 220 last year in Juneau, where the legislature, to their credit, recognized what the Denali Commission had done as sort of setting the stage, and they took up the challenge and passed a law to establish this Emerging Energy Technologies Fund on into the future. Right now it's just for a single year appropriation, which there is a request for proposals that is out right now. It is due on March 2nd, and you can see it through the Alaska Energy Authority website. And there will be some more discussion about that here for the next round that the legislature passed last year. And that was a combination of $2.4 million from the state and also $2.4 million from the Denali Commission. So there's, again, almost $5 million that is going to be available for new emerging technologies, again, with a due date of March 2nd. So I just wanted to mention just briefly also that while we are sort of a trendsetter in establishing this Emerging Energy Technologies Fund, there is also a pattern now or a precedent that is being set around the country. Both at the federal level, the Department of Energy has created something called the Advanced Research Projects Agency, or ARPA-E, and that is essentially the same thing that we're doing here in Alaska on a national scale. It started out last year with, I think, $400 million, and this year is slated for about $350 million. And it's similarly emerging technologies that aren't quite available commercially that is really trying to advance unique and opportune situations throughout the country. And so there's actually a conference in Washington, D.C. at the end of this month that will be sort of their Energy Innovation Summit is what it's called. And so similarly around the country in California, in Hawaii, and I believe in Massachusetts, there are similar sort of energy emerging grant funds that are, again, focused on unique situations for each different state. But again, we're really kind of on the front edge for a change, which is really nice, and everybody who's been part of this ought to be commended for that. And so I think part of the compelling vision or factors around the emerging energy technologies, really, particularly in Alaska, of course, as mentioned briefly, is just really the high cost and challenges with remote markets and small villages in very unusual situations, but also really in terms of the public funding aspect. Energy in general is a very expensive upfront endeavor. And for example, last year I was at this ARPA-E Energy Innovation Summit, which was the first one they ever had, and there were a lot of venture capitalists who were involved in literally billion-dollar internet startups from the 1990s and early 2000s. And they said, really, with internet, for example, you can have a computer and your office space in your garage, and you can turn it into a multi-billion-dollar company. It doesn't work that way with energy projects. You need several, oftentimes $1 billion to really get some big projects off the ground. They were talking about a fuel cell that Google was developing, and that was already like a $2 billion startup, and there was zero income yet to show for it. So there really is a kind of a high risk, but ultimately a very high potential return. And so a lot of that often requires some additional support, typically from governments, because private industry is so risk averse. And so really that's part of the role here with the partnership, is providing the conditions to nurture a situation that down the road will hopefully create both more secure and stable energy situations in Alaska, and also perhaps nurture new industries and develop export technologies that we can share around the world. And so I just want to maybe review the agenda real quickly here and let you folks know that, for example, lunch is going to be at 12:30. We have just really 15 minutes for that, and then we're going to have a working lunch, so the next presenter will be back in here at 12:45. If you are here and you would like lunch, which is being provided by Denali Commission and ASEP, by ASEP, the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And so you need to sign up on that sign-up sheet out there, and they will make sure that you have a lunch. It's just a box lunch, I think, so you can kind of get that quickly and come back into the room. And let's see, there will be, each presenter will have a half hour in total. So we're asking for about 20 minutes, give or take, with 10 minutes left for questions. There will be a timekeeper to let you know when there's 10 minutes left. There will be kind of a sign for the presenter. And there will also be an opportunity at the very end of the day for additional questions. So if you don't have your question answered during the exact presentation, hopefully you can hold on to it and remember it and ask it at the end of the day. Also, let's see, we have we are being recorded, and so we will be passing the microphone around for people to ask questions. And so please just ask your question with the microphone so we can all hear it, and so we can get that recorded for posterity. And I think with that, I would like to introduce Denali Daniels, Energy Program Manager with the Denali Commission, and Barbara Triplett, Program Manager with Alaska Energy Authority.